Sony closes yet another studio underneath their wing of properties. They're turning into the EA of game studios out there that acquires companies and then shuts them down. Sony announces that Bluepoint Games is shutting down. Sony's stubborn commitment to making more and more live service and games as a service games are killing off these kinds of studios. Massive budgets, endless content demands, 24/7 support, battle passes just to survive. 1 week launch and it collapses. Even teams like Bluepoint get caught in a crossfire of the shift towards forever revenue. Chasing Fortnite money is burning studios alive, jacking prices up for consoles and games across the board. And who's left holding the bag if you want to be part of the ecosystem? You. This mentality is going to crash the entire AAA game industry if it keeps up. And we have a post from Herman Hulst. He said, "Hello, everyone. I wanted to share an important update from the studio business. As I mentioned in the December town hall, 2025 had some strong highlights within play. Oh, they're doing the whole sandwich approach. gonna put the meat of this one in the middle within PlayStation Studios. Ghost of Yotei launched to critical and commercial exited out success exited out. Death Stranding 2 on the Beach further showcased our commitment to narrative excellence, and Helldivers 2 and MLB The Show continue to drive ongoing player engagement and revenue. At the same time, we're operating in an increasingly challenging industry environment. Rising development costs, slow industry growth, changing player behavior, players wanting to play good games, and broader economic headwinds are making it harder to build games sustainably. To navigate this reality, we need to continue adapting and evolving. We've taken a close look at our business to ensure we're delivering today while still well positioned for the future. As a result, we will be closing Bluepoint Games in March. This decision was not made lightly. Of course, this is the same generic, it was really tough to do, but we did it. This is the same company, by the way, Sony, that shut down Firewalk Studios after acquiring it for allegedly, when it was probably monsters, $400+ million, and then pouring in an alleged $400+ million on Concord, a nearly $1 billion write-off for how bad that game was and purchasing that studio was. And like I said, when that happened, the ripple effects and ramifications are going to be felt throughout not just all of Sony, but the entire game industry at large for a massive error like that was. Bluepoint is an incredibly talented team, and their technical expertise has delivered exceptional experiences for the PlayStation community. I want to thank everyone at Bluepoint for their creativity, craftsmanship, and commitment to quality. Where possible, we will work to find opportunities for some impacted employees within our global network of studios. Good luck finding a job when none of the other studios that Sony has are hiring right now, but have fun with that. While I know this is hard news to hear, I'm confident in the direction we're headed. Creativity, innovation, and building unforgettable experiences for players remain at the heart of PlayStation Studios. We have a robust roadmap for fiscal year 26 with much to look forward to in the months ahead. Thank you for your hard work and continued support. Best, Herman Hulst, CEO, Studio Business Group from Sony. And I got to tell you guys, this right here proves that the people up top are so disconnected with what gamers actually want that now entire divisions of the company and studios are being shut down completely. Jason Schreier, breaking. PlayStation is shutting down Bluepoint Games, the studio responsible for modern remakes of classic games such as Demon's Souls and Shadow of Colossus, Bloomberg News has learned. A shocking end for a well-respected studio. Roughly 70 employees will be impacted by the Bluepoint closure. Bluepoint was working on a God of War, get ready for it, say the line, Bart, live service game, until it was canceled early last year. The studio then spent the last year pitching and trying to determine what it would do next. Full story. Oh my God. The amount of wasted money is actually impressive coming out of Sony. This is the same Firewalk Studios stuff that we were talking about. They had an entire studio under one of the wings of Sony working with roughly 70 full-time employees and developers on pitching ideas for a year after shutting down what they were working on. Like, talk about shooting yourself in both feet. You can't even get a game out the door and then don't have anything to work on after that. Grum says, what Sony keeps versus what Sony yeets. How messed up is that? We have Bungie's Marathon, which drum roll on that one. And then Bluepoint, our games. Demon Souls, Metacritic 92. Shadow of Colossus, Metacritic 91. But don't worry, guys. Get excited for Bungie's Marathon. Yay. Yay. Emerald Apple. Yep. Same with other studios like Square Enix, canceling Yoko Taro's projects while funding garbage like Killer Inn. Yep. Sony execs are following orders, says Gringotex. Go woke or get fired. Yes, they'll eventually go broke. But by then, BlackRock and Vanguard would have already been fully divested and on to the next target. The woke agenda is real and intentional. Oligarchs need division and distractions. There you go. BlackRock, JP Morgan Chase, Vanguard, largest institutional investors in Sony Group. Wow. And then the Walt Disney Company too, in case you're curious. And Netflix. Wow. It's almost like it all lines up with the direction that they've been going. Jay Viper, Sony worked with Bluepoint for years and acquired them in 2021, I believe. Now they're shutting them down 5 years later. So this is what Sony does now, eh? Like I was saying, it's kind of like the EA graveyard of games and companies. And then you go to LinkedIn, you got everyone posting about it. Audrey Bourne, it is time for my next adventure. My time at Bluepoint Games is over. 7 amazing years. Sanket Tonde, our beloved Bluepoint Game Studio has come to an end. I had been working great time with such talented folks, and we'll miss them for sure. And remember, Bluepoint Games was an independent studio that got acquired by Sony in around 2021, where they had the opportunity to not have that happen, but it's kind of hard to turn down that money. And then Sony turns around 5 years later and shuts them down. And yet another studio in Austin being shut down, by the way. Bluepoint Games and built in Austin. Proud member of PlayStation Studios, Bluepoint Games was established in 2006 and has grown to a team of over 70 people. We've taken the next step in our growth from our history of delivering the highest quality remasters and remakes in the industry to developing original content. We are always striving to push our limits and surpass expectations. Our latest projects will be the most ambitious in our history, the kind of challenge that inspires the most talented developers. So our founders were part of the Metroid Prime engineering team. Holy shit. And had been in the industry for over 20 years, while the majority of the team had been in the industry for 10. So a very talented team and making exceptional game experiences. Truly tragic, honestly. The reunion, quote, we don't want to succeed anymore, is what I'm gathering from this. This goes into what I said about lack of silence and self-decision-making in modern games. Shadow of Colossus style games are not revered anymore. They are going for Subway Surfer. Legendary drops. Wastes billions shitting the bed with live service games. Closes elite single-player remake and porting studio. We are actually getting to the point where armchair gamers could run these companies better than these executives. It's not even a joke. Like, I am confident in saying most people in this chat, most people watching this video would take from this saying, I could do a much better job than whatever the hell Sony's been doing over there. Absolute insanity, honestly. Learning the Law says, Sony shut down developer Bluepoint Games, known for erasing male and female options in the Demon Souls remake. The company is now Type F, identified as flop/flopped. Good point, by the way. Even though it had a high Metacritic score, instituting the modern audience of body types into that game did not go over very well. And this one from Peter Dalton, who is the head of technology at Bluepoint Games. Unfortunately, Bluepoint's time is over. It has been a great studio with an abundance of talent. Right now, I feel like I've been kicked in the gut, but on to better things. And Thomas Mahler, who is a very based developer, he's from Moon Studios, he said, Sadly, the layoff wave in the video games industry isn't over yet, and there's still a bunch of major layoffs ahead. I've been in a lot of hiring conversations lately, and one thing I still hear is, isn't an indie team riskier? What about job security? And I keep thinking, what job security? When has that ever been a real thing? In the last few years, we've seen entire studios disappear overnight. Projects canceled, teams dissolved. People who thought they were in, quote, safe positions suddenly out the door. Job security is a nice little lie to lure you in, but I think it's time for people to be a little less gullible. Maybe it's time for more people in the industry to think a bit more entrepreneurially. Where is your work actually valued? Where can you turn yourself into an invaluable asset? Where can you build something that lasts without potentially getting your project canceled after years of work on it? There's something powerful about working in an environment where everyone's aligned, where leadership is transparent, and where everyone works hard to elevate each other in order to ultimately ship a phenomenal product instead of just servicing shareholder expectations. Just something to think about. Wholeheartedly agree. And I would imagine it is a pleasure to be working for someone like him at his company. Legacy Killer, disgusting. Just absolutely disgusting. Their last known project was a God of War live service game that made 0 cents. Totally mismanaged by Sony. They've been doing a lot of that lately. Destin, of all the studios to shut down at PlayStation, this one hurts the most. Quote tweeting Idle Sloth, talking about the quote from Herman Hulst that we talked about earlier. Endymion, Sony just shut down Bluepoint Games, the devs who remade games like Shadow Colossus and Demon Souls. What the fuck is Sony doing, man? What a waste. It really is tragic. But at the same time, like, how the hell could you have this many people working at a company for over a year on pitching ideas? At some point, shit or get off the pot. Like, do something. You gotta, like, who's paying you? Where's the money coming? Pirate Nation. Sony sent cease and desist letter to a Bloodborne remake project. Maxime Falquer, who is a 3D animator making games, with the closure of Bluepoint Studio, now feels like the right time to share something. Sony sent me a cease and desist letter regarding my second Bloodborne remake project that I posted about in November 2024. I was incredibly excited about this project and worked on it a lot in my spare time. Then I received the letter you can see here. I told myself, okay, I expected this might happen. Maybe it's because a real Bloodborne remake is actually in development, with Bluepoint leading it for the PS6 launch. I didn't say anything in March 2025 because I decided to repurpose all the assets I created for that project into a new game set in my own universe, inspired by Bloodborne. My plan was to reveal the letter once the game was ready to communicate. Unfortunately, plans changed. I'd rather speak about it now, as my disappointment is immense. The disappearance of Bluepoint is a tremendous loss for the industry and for the dream of a Bloodborne remake. Why are you making such absurd decisions, Sony? Shutting down a talented studio while you're not even making a Bloodborne remake on top of all that, sending cease and desist letters to small fan projects? Are you serious? I understand protecting the IPs and stuff like that, but my goodness, how this could have been handled so much better. If Sony really wanted to make a Bloodborne follow-up, hire this guy, bring him in. Why not? And if you're not going to do that, send the cease and desist and do something with the property. We'll leave it at this. Destin, don't worry, everyone. Fair Games is still in active development, as far as we know. To which I say, phew, Concord 5. The Sony decisions are impressively bad, though. Impressively bad. As far as I understand with Bluepoint Games, I did not get too much of a sense of hardcore wogies working at that studio. Yes, they had the additions of the body type A and B and Demon Souls. I get that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the developer's choice. That could be coming from marketing or someone up high that was telling from Sony saying you have to implement this in your game. So I don't want to hold the entire studio accountable for a situation like that. It's sad. It's really sad because there's a lot of talented developers that are losing their jobs. And this isn't one of those situations that I'd attribute to because they were woke. This is one of those just really shitty leadership. And, oh, let me guess, the people that are closing the studios have their jobs or their golden parachutes or both, and they have nothing to worry about. Meanwhile, all these people getting laid off because of your shitty decisions. Zero accountability in the business world. It's embarrassing. Sony should be embarrassed by this. It's horrible. Absolutely horrible. It's stuff like this happening genuinely makes me concerned for the future of the game industry. Because if this keeps happening, it's not sustainable. Proctafile dropping the 2. Tsushima sold 13 million copies to Yotei's 3.3. Yeah. But don't talk about Tsushima because that's different. It had like more consoles and more time and stuff. Yeah, that's why it sold 5 times as much. It's sad. Like it's genuinely sad. I keep going back to, I know it's such a cheap, easy way out to not blame anyone. But, and it's hard, especially some of these devs have families and you got to pay the bills. I understand that. But in this environment, find a job wherever you can and then use your spare time to build your passion project alone with all the tools available to you. And if you're already a seasoned developer and know how to do everything, what's stopping you? With the assistance of ChatGPT or AI, whatever version you want to use, just make your game. There's so many indie studios of one person or 2 people. Whoa. You guys hear that? It's like a torrential downpour. Dexter hears that. You hear the rain? Is it raining? It's like super rainy right now. There's no bunny rabbits in the rain. Don't worry. But yeah, there's no excuses. Get to work. Do it. And I think in a weird way, what's happening right now is going to give birth to a whole shitload of indie games 3, 4, 5 years from now that are just like coming from these people. They're just like, yep, I just did it myself after I got laid off. I feel like that's going to be the story that we hear a lot. Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Good boy.